This is today all about a nation-to-nation communication. You are tribal nations, and I represent the President of the United States, and so it's nation-to-nation communication. And that recognizes your political status as a sovereign government, and I hope you feel that. We tried to listen very carefully, and I have received invitations to come to Alaska and to visit with you, and this is just a follow-up to many of those invitations that are given to me. When your leaders come to Washington, D.C., we try to accommodate them and sit down and visit with them, and undoubtedly in all of those meetings there will be an invitation extended back to me to come to Alaska. So that's what's happened here, is I've accepted those invitations. And I wish I could go into every small village and to learn. Last year, I went to Bethel, and we got in a boat, and we went out about, what was it, Mike, about 30 miles up the river, and we visited 3 villages. And every time that I stop at a place like that, I was in Stevens Village yesterday. I learned something by talking to the people and seeing things. And I remember being in Mike's village when we were driving along, and we saw this young boy. He was riding his bicycle. And I don't know how to properly describe him. I hope I don't say anything offensive, but, I call him a small person. He is, much smaller than he ought to be for his age because of physical disability. But he had the biggest smile on his face, and it just warmed my heart to see him. But I also thought about the kind of challenges that he must face in living in that remote area without access to the conveniences of life that other people outside of Alaska take for granted. And it's moments like that, it's things that I see that help me to have the proper perspective in doing my job. I have been very blessed in life. I am a member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, and my parents had 6 children. We are the first generation in our family, the EchoHawk family, to realize the value of higher education. My parents were not wealthy in the sense that they did not have the money to send all of their children to college. But we found a way to go, all 6 of us. I was a college football player, so I earned a scholarship. And all 6 of us went to college, and 3 of us became lawyers. And I've heard people speak about the value of education today. Once you break through with a generation like that, it makes it easier for the next generation. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C., and had what I call a good payday. It was a good payday because I was in the United States Supreme Court. Since I'm a former state attorney general, I've actually gone to the United States Supreme Court 3 times. It's a pretty awesome experience to be able to argue a case on behalf of one of the 50 states of the Union before the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court. But in that most recent day being in the court, it was the best experience I've ever had, because I was there to watch my 3 sons be sworn in to the United States Supreme Court. Makes a father very proud to see his children get an education that will sustain them. in life. It makes me even prouder to know that they're all tribal lawyers, using their education to help people, Native people, the first Americans. So I've had a good life. I call it a perfect life. I was a legal services lawyer in my first job, coming right out of law school. I took the lowest paying job in the legal profession in legal services to work for Native people. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I went into private law practice and started my own practice as a sole practitioner, the goal of representing Native people. And I did that, and that practice grew to not just one lawyer, but more work I got representing Indian people. I'd hire another lawyer, and then another, until we got up to 7 lawyers. But my dream coming out of law school was to be a tribal lawyer. And that was a pretty lofty goal, because back in those days, look how old I am, there were virtually no American Indians that held law degrees at that time. It was something very unusual for a Native American to even graduate from law school. And in 1977, I applied for a position to become a tribal attorney for Idaho's largest tribe. And I will forever be thankful that the tribal council, when they saw this unusual sight of then a very young, recent graduate from law school with black hair. That was me. I had black hair, long hair. And they entrusted in me by hiring me as their chief general legal counsel. That may have been the first time in American history that American Indian was hired and entrusted with the responsibility to represent a large land-based treaty tribe, the Shoshone-Bannock Indian Nation at the Fort Hall Indian Reservation. But that opened the door of opportunity to serve. I held that position for 9 years. You know, I later became the Attorney General for the state of Idaho, and then the perfect life is to teach law school. So I've been a law professor, and that's where you have an opportunity to shape the minds, but also the hearts of young people that are empowered with a good education in the law to help people. It's been a good life. But on January 13th of last year in 2009, life started to change.